So I'd like to introduce John Fitzgerald. He's running against George Miller up north here.
All right.
So open your eyes and mind to John and make up your own decision. John Fitzgerald, thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Wow, that's loud. Hey, thank you. I'm the token Democrat here. You know, anybody that looks at my website or looks at the brochure I'm handing out realizes very quickly, forget the partisan bickering. You got the Republicans on one side, you got the Democrats on the other side, and who's in the middle? We are. They're dividing us. The politicians and the news media are dividing us each and every day. We are Americans first and foremost. And I want people to start realizing, if you want to take this country back from the tyrannical people that are running it right now, then you better wake up to the reality of life today in America. The National Defense Authorization Act. You and I can now be rounded up by the military, being accused of being a terrorist with no due process, no representation, and held indefinitely for life.
How about that?
That's not the America that I grew up in,
That's right.
but that's the America it's becoming, and I'm not going to stand that happening anymore. When I have a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old and a 22-year-old, I'm going to fight tooth and nail until I get into office as your congressman against George Miller, a man who's been there for 38 years, whose dad preceded him for 28 years, with the same name, George Miller, where a lot of people thought they were voting for his dad. They were voting for Junior. And Junior has a son who's a big-time lobbyist through Sacramento and Contra Costa County. In fact, on their own website, they talk about no one knows the halls of Sacramento more than we do. George's son has a law firm. He's a huge lobbyist, as I said. He received $60,000 from the Enron company the year they collapsed. His dad rails against the tobacco companies, but his son on his own website's taken $250,000 to $500,000 a year from the tobacco companies. Philip Morris. This is the climate we're living in today in America. We got to make a change on that. And you got to also understand, President Obama ran on stopping these executive orders that George Bush did. And I was no fan of George Bush. I'm not a fan of President Obama. I think he should be impeached for treason and many other things that are going on right now, including this global warming scam on carbon credits. But President Obama is passing right now executive orders to take over every single agency in America. Every single agency in case of an emergency. Now, the emergency could be war, it could be anything they deem an emergency. That's wrong. And we've got to step up and realize that if we don't do something about that to mitigate this, our country is going to be in absolute peril very quickly.
Very quickly.
I want to talk about something that a lot of people don't talk about because it's in 2008. And it started with George Bush. And it ended up with President Obama. All 50 states were $150 billion in debt combined. When we gave them the bailout in this free market system, I'm self-employed. No one's bailing me out. My company's down 70%. But we bailed out, this is strictly the banks. We're not talking about the insurance companies. We're not talking about the car manufacturing companies. We're talking about the banks, specifically the banks. Obama forgot to put a stipulation in there saying they couldn't get bonuses. $150 billion in debt, all 50 states combined. Guess what the bankers took, the CEOs and the rest of them, in bonuses that very year? $148 billion within $2 billion of all the debts combined. That is what I'm trying to change. Get the lobbyists out of Washington, K Street, J Street. Bring it back to us and our families. We're suffering. We got the elderly choosing between heat in their homes in the winter months on the East Coast, food on their table, pharmaceuticals. They're having to make a choice because they're on fixed incomes. We've got to start representing the true patriots and the true people of America, the citizenry of America that is going by the wayside each and every day through an act of attrition with our politicians on both sides. I hope to earn your vote June 5th in the primary. It's going to be a tough battle, no doubt. They raised the fees. Last time I ran, I didn't even have a candidate statement. It cost $2,000 back then. But I got into the race with 3.5 months before the primary. I had $4,200 proven to people that I could run without any special interest money. No lobbyists. Not that they were coming my way anyway, but I'm not going to take a dime from them, and they didn't come my way. But the fact is, I did quite well. I was told I get 3 to 5%. I ran in Solano County and Contra Costa County. In Solano, I got 18% against who was considered the second most powerful person behind Nancy Pelosi in Congress. They took out every city, every single city in Solano County is gone now. And it's happening across the country. People like us that are running, that are resonating, they're taking the cities away that they did well in. So right now, I raised $10,000 just to pay to get on the ballot and to have a candidate statement. $10,000, they raised it 4 times what it was last time. But I did it. And we barely did it. But it's going to go into 350,000 homes. And when you and others see what I'm running on, it is so down the middle, and it is so for us, the American people, that nobody can challenge that my heart and my mind is not in the right place. That's the only reason I'm running. I'm a painting contractor. I paint homes. I do commercial and I do residential houses and buildings. I watch my own family who are right now suffering. I see many other people suffering. And as I said and I alluded to earlier, my business is down about 60 to 70% what it was just 4 years ago. But I'm still above water. And as I said, I don't want someone to bail me out. I'm working hard with my wife's help and other people's help to get jobs. Because we have a major problem with people taking advantage of our government and stealing our money. But the biggest culprits of this are the very people that are supposed to be representing us. They are no longer representing us. And the fact is, I'm going to do everything I can to combat that until I get into Congress. And I'm going to represent you, the people. We have a Constitution in this land. And a Constitution with a Bill of Rights that preserves that right for me to speak out. But when I went to speak in front of Miller and ask him a question about the Federal Reserve, what was going on in this country, they turned my mic off. You can see it on my website. Now, that wasn't Mr. Miller who did it, but those were people tied to him and his organization who did so. A lot of people don't like the fact that I speak out against the wars. I support our troops, but the fact is, we're killing a lot of our soldiers. And 90% of the people abroad, this is in mainstream news, are innocent people. If you took a bet to a beehive, what's going to happen? You want to talk about bringing terrorism home to roost? That, in my mind, is what we're doing right now with this foreign policy we have. I believe in having a defense, but we're spending $1.4 trillion on the average right now. And China's spending $80 billion. We quadrupled that, made it 320 to 500 billion, say. Are we not protected enough as it is? That's what I'm talking about. All this money's going overseas, and we have a Defense Department with their own budget, but we also have a military budget that's building all these buildings, ambassadorships and everything else around the world. And they're being torn down and bombed, and we're rebuilding them again, schools and everything else. What about our children? We have a national educational system that's absolutely broken. Mr. Miller is one of the chief signatories on the No Child Left Behind. Now he's trying to reinvent the wheel with charter schools. This guy has been a disgrace to the educational system. This man talks about Obamacare and what we're going to do and how it's going to help everybody. Let the states decide what they want. And for that reason, I support Ron Paul. Because Ron Paul talks about the Constitution and the states. And allowing the states to have the rights to do as they choose with the populace voting on it. That's what I'm all about. He talks about supporting our troops. This man has stood toe-to-toe with everybody in Congress and all the presidents over the years, and he's stuck to his message. That's what I do. I stick to my message. And the message to you and to everybody else is, we need to have a change, but a change for us, the people. I want to leave you with this. My mother, registered Democrat over 70 years. She's still alive. She's 88 years old. My sister, registered Democrat for 30-something years now. My niece, who's 21. They all switched to Republican. They didn't switch to Republican for Romney or Santorum, who just stepped out, or for Newt Gingrich. They did it for Ron Paul because they agree with his message, and it resonates with many people I talk to. If they study his message and they realize, don't take his message out of context. His message is a very good message. Let's save America, and let's save our troops that are abroad right now, and at least allow our troops who come home to have the benefits they deserve. They're cutting their benefits too.
Yeah.
And the average soldier right now that comes back with brain injury costs you and I $37 million per soldier over their lifetime. Please help me change that, and please help me, tell the truth and get the truth out to a larger audience. Thank you so much, and I have a lot of respect for the Tea Party and for people that tell the truth. Thank you.
And thank you, John.